So what I want to do in this video is show you how we're using a set to create a dashboard action. And so before I do that, I want to talk about some of the changes I made to some of the previous visualizations that I created using sets, and some of to go over some of the other set capabilities from previous videos. So the first thing I want to show you what I did was, this used to look like that, right? Where depending on what was in or out of the set, we showed individual bars. And I simply moved that to detail, so we're seeing a stack bar. So it's easier to kind of determine the proportion. The other thing I did, and I should have started out with this, is I'm no longer using the Gulf Coast state fixed set, but I'm using what used to be called state set 2. I believe I renamed that to states at risk. That's the dynamic set that is that functions by choosing states from this drop-down menu, and we're still looking at the Gulf Coast states. I didn't make any changes other than, again, I modified the calculation that we're using here to based on the states at risk rather than the Gulf Coast states. And then this used to be that bar chart showing by the length of the bar the sales for each state, and I changed it to this. I think it may be a little bit better, and it certainly looks better on the dashboard in terms of fitting in all the information. We could see all the sales for each of the states, and what I did was I added in average lines, so we could see how the average of the states that might be impacted by a storm is compared to the other states. In this case, the Gulf Coast state sale average is above the other states. And so that's how I created this dashboard, and I dragged everything in. Now what I want to do is, I've already created the action. So what I'm going to do though is pull it up and go through each of the steps. So I'm going to dashboard, I'm going to action. This is the action I already created. If I started this from the very beginning, I would click add action. But since I've already created this, I'm just going to click edit. Once you hit, if we had started this by hitting add action, the same dialog box would appear, and the only thing that you'd be doing is creating the name, states at risk, and then you need to tell Tableau, well, what's the source sheet? And in this case, I'm choosing the source sheet to be states at risk, meaning, recall, what does a set action do? What it does is, whenever you click on any of the marks, which in this case is any of the states, then the value of those marks, again in this case the name of the state, is passed to the set. So that's what we're saying, that's the source. Then we have to choose, well what's going to create that action? You know, someone hovering over a mark, selecting the mark, or choosing from a menu. Then we have to tell Tableau which set do we want to be impacted. So I've already done that. These are all the different sets that were that are part of this workbook. And that are on these work on these views on the dashboard, and I chose states at risk. That's the one we want to be impacted. And then we have to choose what happens when the action occurs, meaning when someone selects a particular mark, and I've chosen, when that happens, to add that value to the set. And then you have to choose what happens when you unselect a mark, or not when you unselect a mark, but when you clear all the marks. And I've chosen to just remove all the values from the set. So let's see how this works. I'm going to click OK and OK. I'm going to let's see if I can do it, unselect everything. So now there are no states at risk, and you can see here's all our sales, clearly no losses, and everything is in technically the outset, right? There are no states at risk. So I could show you that now as I click on each of the states, and I'm going to do the Gulf Coast states again, just to, since that's what we're familiar with. You could see that as I click on each one, that is being added to the set. The overall subtotal of the sales are being added to the at-risk versus other state sales, and we can see where the sales of those states appear on this view as well. So what this allows us to do, let me unclick everything, is at a glance, when we know of some impending storm, try to get a sense of maybe what at risk. For example, there's a potential hurricane heading our way right now, and it looks on the current path that it might hit either Texas or Louisiana. It looks like those states, but let's throw in Mississippi just in case. And you can see we're adding to that the proportion of sales that we might lose compared to overall sales is shown here. And again, we could see the three sales and the average of those sales. And just real quickly again, this is now doing all the same thing. If this happens to be a Pacific storm, we can see the effect of that. The proportion is much higher, and clearly the average sales, and this is mostly has to do with California, which is way up here, is way above the sales of everyone else. So that is a quick demonstration of how to use a action in a set on a dashboard. I do want to point out, I'm not going to create one, but I do want to point out that you could also create an action for a set in a worksheet, and you do it the same way, except instead of clicking on dashboard, you click on worksheet and you go to actions, and you would create a change set value action.